Have you ever been injured in training and worried that your fight days and your training days were over? Today, we have a fighter that's proved that wrong.
Your new strawweight champion in convincing victory fashion.
Welcome back. Jamie, thank you for joining us for our second episode. And today we're going to be talking all things injuries. And as a fighter, we know that that's one of the biggest things that changes the trajectory of how people are training, whether they have to stop training or can continue. And you know a thing or two about injuries yourself.
Yes, I'm no stranger to injuries. I have actually had many of those scares before of injuries and fear of, I thought my career was over and essentially not really knowing where to turn. I never had like a solid, positive answer from a doctor to tell me that I could continue on.
Right. So let's talk about a few of those. So can you just kind of walk through some, because some of the injuries you've had were pretty substantial. So can you walk us through some of what you had experienced?
Yes, I've had 2 ACL reconstructions, 1 meniscus repair, and then my most recent, I partially tore my meniscus again, which ultimately led to me pulling out of my fight earlier this year.
Oh my gosh. So not just bumps and bruises, not just strains and sprains, not just being a little bit sore, but significant full-on surgical procedures needed. For you, when you had your first big ACL, what was the feeling that you had and what was going through your mind when that happened?
Oh geez, I thought I was always gonna feel that way. I thought I was always gonna be in pain, and you try to stay positive, right? But you certainly have those times where you feel depressed, you feel like you don't know what to do with yourself because our days are filled with training and working out and just we're extremely regimented people.
Right.
And to have that all sort of crumble before you.
Literally in the blink of an eye.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's a big fear. I mean, it's in the movies. It's like, oh my gosh, there's their ACL. They're done forever.
Yeah.
I just can't imagine. I've had other injuries. I've not done an ACL yet, thank God.
Stay away.
But yeah, that's not something we want to try out in training, right? So when you're going through that journey, when you're a fighter and you have an injury, the biggest challenge is that you can't be where? In training and on the mats,
at the gym,
right? And that's where we all want to be with our time. So you said something a little earlier where you mentioned the word depression. Can you talk about how a lot of fighters, I mean, they talk about that when they have that injury, they can't be on the mats, they can't be with their team. What was that like for you when you knew you had to take too much time off?
Yeah, it gets pretty dark, but you learn to find different ways to cope. You try to really pull at anything, whether it's support from your teammates, your family, your friends, and you essentially just, we're fighters, right? So we find our way out of it eventually, but it's something that for me personally, I learned to sort of like face it, up front. I mean, I've had a lot of experience, so like I've learned a lot along the way through that is to like, all right, face it. And then you don't have to face it all at once, but just, a little bit each day. And then you sort of find yourself progressing more from like a better like space mentally. You see that progression daily. So then that sort of motivates you to like continue on this like positive pathway.
Absolutely. Now, I believe as an athlete and as fighters, we live in the greatest time in all of recorded history when we're talking about injuries and issues. Can you tell me what happened for you when you met the amazing team at New Hope Regeneration?
Oh, wow. Yeah. Life-changing. It was life-changing. When we had our first conversation and I learned just who you were as a person is what, I'll probably cry. Who you are as people made me feel right away really safe. I just it felt very familiar and comfortable for me. And just through that, I just felt like a deep connection with you already and just learning about how much you help people, and it's from the kindness of your heart. And I know that you guys do everything you can to make these therapies available to everybody, excuse me, so that it's not, nobody should have a reason to not get the help that they need in order to continue living a healthy and fulfilled life.
I love that so much, and thank you for sharing that heart. I'm almost trying not to shed some tears myself. Our dream and our goal is to help athletes and fighters continue to live their dream and be on the mats as long as possible. And we live in amazing times, and so stem cell therapy really has been able to change the trajectory for you in how you're recovering. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
What have been some of the big things that you've noticed, and why are you so excited about having received this life-changing therapy?
I'm not only excited to obviously be back on the mat training and doing what I love every single day, but I am more excited to just live a quality life with my daughter, because I realized over my recent injury with my meniscus tear that I had this like profound sense of just feeling like I don't ever want to feel this way again, where I can't do things with my daughter to do the things that we love together. I want to be able to play, go to the park and play volleyball. I want to like take our walks and go get ice cream, and just like the things like that that bring me so much happiness. There was a thought that I could still do those things, but it wouldn't be the same. It would there would always be a process to do those things. And I just.
Yeah, and one of the interesting things that I've noticed is that, yes, there's your time on the mat, but then there's our normal family time. And so when we're injured, when we're struggling, when the body's not working well, to be able to do the best in both of those worlds is really challenging, or it has been challenging, really, I believe, up until now. And, now we've done therapies for literally thousands and thousands of people and fighters, and we're seeing this common theme where they're like, not only am I training better in training, but now I'm getting better family quality time because I'm not depleted at the end of the day.
Yes.
My body's working better, my mind's working better, my brain's working better.
Yeah. Everything's better.
All those things are better.
The things, like I'm sleeping, I have the energy, I'm keeping up with my daughter, like we're having the best time. And then obviously the training aspect it's huge for me. It's who I am. So it means a lot that I can continue to do that pain-free and just to do it for the fun of it and enjoyment of it, and not have to feel like I'm constantly coming back from the
And we all have to acknowledge at some point we have a graduation date from this existence. And so oftentimes fighters think that once they get to a certain age, they can never do certain things again. And what I love most about what we're seeing in so many of our fighters is that their recoveries are better. They're able to train more days a week oftentimes, where some of our fighters have to take years, months, years, and maybe even we've had people who've taken a decade off, or they've closed their academies and they've had to close their business because their bodies weren't working. So being able to have something to bring a person back to life, essentially living their livelihood, living their purpose, is pretty powerful stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. You said it. You bring us back to life. It's a beautiful thing.
Well, I wish I could take credit for it, but it's really the whole team, and we're just so excited to offer that. If you were talking to other academy owners or other athletes, why would you encourage them to research New Hope Regeneration and to look at this amazing therapy that we're doing?
I would encourage them not only because of who you are as people, and to be connected, and the way you connect with people is really amazing. But I would everybody deserves to have, that second chance at doing whatever it is that they love to do. And I would say, that's it. And to be able to pass that along, to just keep passing the torch, essentially, and just to get everybody, living their best life, their best training life. And I think that's, really important. So.
That's great. So we have a saying, and it was a little cheesy at first when it was kind of put in my head, but we say, heal faster, fight harder, and compete for longer. Would you agree that's a pretty good?
100%. It's beautiful.
Thank you, Jamie, so much for another amazing episode.
Thank you so much for having me.
Make sure you subscribe and follow us on whatever platform you're on. And if you're inspired by Jamie's story, go to InsideTheFight.net and get your free consultation. And make sure you join us next time on Inside the Fight.